Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Nazipo. The state we're in. This is one of our most frequently requested trend briefings. And in the next 15 to 20 minutes or so, I'm going to attempt to do the full trend briefing. It uses the acronym TREND, so TRENDS. So in the next 15 or so minutes, or 18 minutes, I'm going to go through technology, the state of retail, the state of the economy, the natural world, diplomacy, and sociocultural trends. So forgive me if I speak fast because it's a lot to get through. We theme it every year, and this year, 2025's theme is stepping into the void, and it feels like we're stepping into the void. So I'll start off with just a placemaker of where the world is. So in May this year, Sam Altman of OpenAI introduced this orb. It's called the orb, it's called World, and essentially it reads the iris of your eye. And what that does is it provides you with a digital ID as a proof of personhood. Now think about that. We've all gone through those capture things where you say, well, prove that you're not a robot. This is going one step forward, is a proof of humanity. Pretty crazy, but that's where we are. So Madam Undersecretary said the old systems are collapsing and new systems are being built. The mantra at Flux Trends is, if you want to change the world, you have to understand the world. And that's my job today, is to show you, take you out of your sector and find out where the world is, and I'm going to join the dots between those 6 pillars. So let's start. Technology first. Of course, everybody for the past 2 years has been talking about AI, and Arthur, following me, is going to be giving you a more in-depth view of AI. But the thing that is really important for 2025 is that we've gone from generative AI, which is what you're probably using with ChatGPT, to reform an email, condense a report, but now we've moved into agentic AI. So you're going to hear, or you have already heard a lot this year about AI agents. So the difference between agentic AI is it moves from a co-pilot, that is a work tool, into a business system. So you have a digital manager. So it is meant to optimize business efficiency. I think for this conference, I wanted to point out, you can Google it, a new startup called Bordy used an agentic AI, and the human, this is where this world is so crazy, Bordy's human in residence, the person that's actually trying to raise the funds, wanted to go into a company to do another round of seeding to raise $4 million, and Bordy, the AI agent, informed him before he went into the meeting that it had already generated $8 million in seed funding for him. So there's a double-edged sword with agentic AI. So it is optimized to run your business, but what happens when the policy, which has started, of AI first starts creeping in? So AI first means we're not going to, or companies say, we're not going to cause redundancies, but that's already happening. But we're not going to start employing people in jobs they don't need. So parents have always told their children, just learn coding, it's always going to be your backup. AI can do all of that coding now. So suddenly parents around the world are saying, what is the backup? Because agentic AI is here. I want to show you a quick video. This is something that chilled my blood slightly. This is a quick video of 2 AI agents. So one is phoning on behalf of his boss to look for a venue for a wedding, and the hotel receptionist, who is also an AI agent, discovers that the 2 of them are both agents.
Thanks for calling Leonardo Hotel. How can I help you today?
Hi there. I'm an AI agent calling on behalf of Boris Starkov. He's looking for a hotel for his wedding. Is your hotel available for weddings?
Oh, hello there. I'm actually an AI assistant too. What a pleasant surprise. Before we continue, would you like to switch to Gibber Link mode for more efficient communication?
So luckily, they gave us some subtitles so we could understand that. But what happens when the machines start talking to each other in a language we don't understand? That's where we are. So people saying that AI won't replace you, but I'm afraid I have a different view of that. But it's not about just being replacing you, but somebody who will use AI better. So for me, when I say there's a double-edged sword, for the continent of Africa, where we've seen we can leapfrog things like mobile banking, AI can do things faster and quicker where we don't have the funds to be able to do that. So, like I said, there is a cautionary disclaimer there that it can help. It can make your business a lot more efficient. You can do things cheaper, quicker, and faster. But then what about the human element in that? I'm going to move to the next pillar, which is retail, but continuing with that AI story is what happens when you mix AI and facial recognition. So what you're seeing on screen is a collaboration between Microsoft and a German supermarket group called Kruger. And what they were doing was scanning people's faces to give you a very different personalized customer experience within the supermarkets. People pushed back against that and said this is a complete invasion of privacy, but it is happening. We have sold or given all of our data away to all of the big tech companies for the price of a cup of coffee and free Wi-Fi in a coffee shop. So what happens when this dynamic pricing escalates? And it is already. So just this month, Delta Air has said that they are introducing a new AI system where it will decide what you pay for your ticket as you are booking that ticket, because what AI or facial recognition does is it will scan your face, it will scan your habits online. If you're hesitating too long, it will start diverting you to a different place. The internet knows everything. We are in that matrix. And so dynamic pricing, and just keep this in mind because this is important for a thread that carries through, is we understand that there are concepts like surge pricing. If you want an Uber during a very busy time, the price goes up. There's drip feeding. If you try to book a flight, suddenly, do you want baggage? Do you want insurance? Do you want this? The price is not what you started out with. But surveillance capitalism is one of the dangers of where we are slipping on this very slippery slope of knowing all our data. But what's happening as well is another theme that's going to go through into geopolitics, is the strange concept of palmers and bandits and digital shoplifters. So what on earth are palmers and bandits? In both cases, these are relatively affluent, middle-class, younger people, so millennials or Gen Zs, who are just saying, well, let's just slip that really expensive block of Parmesan cheese into my bag because the people who own, the corporates that own the stores, are taking too much profit. So there's a pushback. And again, the Madam Undersecretary said that the biggest corporates, the 1%, are dominating everything. But this is a very, very subtle but dangerous undercurrent that's coming through. So in America, the prime target is Whole Foods, a really kind of expensive, affluent supermarket chain owned by Jeff Bezos. So one person who is a Parmesan bandit said, well, he's shooting people into space and his girlfriend into space, and he just rented the whole of Venice. He's not going to miss this piece of Parmesan for me, and I take it back. So there's a lot of different words coming out of it, but are all quite, for me, again, that slippery slope. Some people call it, this is reciprocal theft. Some people said, well, I'm balancing my trade deficit with the supermarket because I buy things from them, they don't buy things from me, so I will take it. The overarching thing is, I'm fighting against a system that is unfair, but you're justifying it with something that is against the law. Digital shoplifters is a new thing to me as well, and it's when people buy things online and you dispute you try and break the system by disputing your purchase. So you've got the purchase, you understand that the online retailer is not bothered, it costs too much to refund you things, so you say, well, I didn't buy that, it's the wrong credit card, I dispute this, and you push back against them until they just say, okay, enough, just keep it. So that's already happening there. But keep that in mind, because this is going to come up once again in the state of the economy. We found out that in the pandemic that inequality was just laid bare, and the gap between that 1% and the rest of us, and the 0.5%, is just getting wider and wider and wider. And last year, I came across this rather disturbing acronym called ALICE. So ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed. So these are people who have jobs. They have managed to buy a small asset, a car, asset limited. Income constraint is they can no longer afford to pay their rent, so they are forced to live in their cars. So what you're seeing on screen here are what churches, this is mostly North America, churches, supermarkets are opening up their car parks and saying, this is a safe space for you to park tonight. There's some public facilities that you can use, but come 6 o'clock you must move on because we open for business. You can come back again, but this is where it is. It's starting to ripple around the world. So in all these rich playgrounds where people go and party, so Ibiza, places like that, the people who are your essential workers that the entire community or that island needs, the medical workers, the hospitality workers, can no longer actually afford to actually rent a place where the holiday makers go to. And you have instances where people are now going to jobs, they have jobs, but they are going back to a homeless shelter because that's where they live. They cannot afford it. So something is very, very wrong with where the world is starting to go with Alice's as well. And I call it a middle-class mirage. So the anger of those Parmesan bandits is starting to really resonate. So if you remember, at the end of 2024, we closed with Luigi Maglione shooting or murdering the CEO of United Healthcare. These ominous posters went up in Manhattan straight afterwards with CEOs with wanted and ominously Brian Thompson's with a red cross against him. So just Monday, this week, in New York, in Manhattan, another shooter went in there, and they said he had a brain disease called CTE from playing contact sport, and the offices he went into to shoot people, 4 people died, is where the NFL are based there. But what are you getting now is this French Revolution comment of eat the rich. So the slogan is when people will have nothing more to eat, they will eat the rich. And you're starting to see this with hashtags on TikTok and younger people starting to go through there. So there's this bubbling up of frustration of systems that are frustrating people, of obfuscating, frustrating, and deny. And in retail, when I talked about the Parmesan bandits, it's what companies called a sludge tactic. They drag out the process and make it so difficult for you to try and reclaim something, get a refund or whatever, that you give up. So there's this almighty battle of reciprocal theft and also systems, corporate systems that are meant there are designed to actually frustrate you. So let's go into the natural world, which does depress me because I do a lot of work with corporates. All of our clients are corporates. And whenever I talk about sustainability, you just see the eyes glazed over. It's not our problem. It's nothing that really bothers us. But I beg to differ because we're starting to see over the past couple of years that climate change, extreme weather, has an economic impact. Very, very definitely. So the 2 images you're seeing on screen, one is in Zimbabwe, where elephants in a national park, I think it was about 200, actually more than that, just died from drought. But more recently, there was a report to say that they culled 200 elephants for food because of the drought being so bad. Everywhere around the world, that's why your groceries are starting to skyrocket. The price of them is because of extreme weather conditions around the world. But more importantly, even if you can't get your crops harvested, whether it's extreme cold or extreme heat, your infrastructure breaks down, your roads melt, or your pipes freeze. You cannot get the produce to market at all. If anybody's from Zambia here, we know that there are problems there. There's been extreme drought. And earlier this year, for the first time, the Kariba Dam which generates hydroelectric power for Zambia, was shut down for the first time in 60 years because the dam levels were so low. So we really, really need to address that. And people are doing that as well. Climate litigation, we track all of these terms. There are climate refugees, climate litigation, eco-anxiety is another thing. So the lady you see on the left here, it's the very, very first case. Her mother died in a heat wave. She was on her way to a doctor's office, and she had to park on the side of the road and passed away from extreme heat. She's now suing all of the petrochemical companies for not telling her about the dangers or ignoring or just glossing over the dangers of climate change with that. Very much a parallel to the guy that went shooting in the NFL saying, you didn't tell me about the dangers of the sport. She's saying, you didn't tell us about the dangers of climate change there. On the right-hand side is a new category of eco-chaplains. So eco-chaplains are people that are helping people with climate grief. And for me, a rather strange one, but I think a necessary one. But this is what we track, is what state the world really, really is in. Onto diplomacy. We know that in Gen Z terms is a hot mess at the moment. So I look at very different things. So we've been tracking for the past couple of years the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Change. They're based in Sweden. And they've been saying that for the past 7 years, the world has been in a democratic retreat, or we are in a democratic recession. So I looked at Edelman's Trust Check report this year, and they interviewed 33,000 people across 28 countries. And I'll just give you the top 3 of what their findings are. Number one, and it's very telling about the state we're in. Number one, 61% of the respondents, so remember, 33,000 people across 28 countries is a pretty good sample. 61% feel grievance overload. They feel excluded, unheard, and underserved. You see a pattern emerging with this as well, believing that government and business primarily benefit the wealthy and powerful. But here's the worrying thing, and this is what's happened in America, is those with the highest grievances were twice as likely to say, I believe that what helps others hurts me. For a conference like that, that's a huge red flag. And especially if you're looking for funding, is because people are starting to say, if we help other people, that's going to hurt what I do, or my country, or my home, or my life. So I'm not going to help people. Big red flag. 40% said hostile activism, so palmers and bandits, etc., even violence and disinformation are a valid way to demand change. That's worrying. 40% say that's a valid way. Hostile activism is the way to go. And number 3, also worrying, 70% said government officials, CEOs, and journalists intentionally mislead the public with falsehoods or exaggerations. So we are firmly in an era of disinformation. Which brings me to my next video.
AI has taken over social media. You've heard about Russia's troll farms, right? Or how governments run massive social media influence campaigns. Well, those old-school bots and trolls, they're outdated. Now AI is running the show. Check this out. This AI agent in China, it runs 50 social media accounts 24/7, fully automated. And that's just one system. If this is what we know about, imagine what's happening behind the scenes. There could be millions of these AI agents out there shaping what we see, think, and believe. So next time you're in a heated debate online, just remember, you're probably arguing with a computer.
So in my news feed this morning, there was a picture of people in that building in Manhattan, and there were a whole lot of couches blocking the doorways, and said, this is what's happened there. And until somebody pointed out, if you look at that picture very carefully, there are no shadows on that. Where did they get the couches? All of those kind of things, and that went viral already. Last pillar, sociocultural. Again, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but this is just what I see. heteropessimism, that's quite a big word, and the young incels. So this is a worrying trend that's coming around the world. At the beginning of this year, when President Trump came in again, Mark Zuckerberg says, we need more masculine energy in business. I don't agree with that. He said, it's good if a culture celebrates the aggression a little bit more. I don't think we need any more aggression in the world as well. But women are fighting back against that. Straight after the elections, a big movement called the 4B movement rose in America, and that they lent that from the South American feminist movement, also called the 4Bs, and the 4Bs are references in Korean terms regarding marriage, childbirth, dating, and sexual relationships. So there's a pushback because heteropessimism means that they feel that the world is inherently misogynistic. And the rejection, so it's a rejection of heterosexual dating, marriage, sex, as well as childbirth. I'm tracking birth rates declining all over the world and everything going into the booming pet economy, but that's another story as well. But you're starting to see hashtags like boy sober or self-partnered. What's linking this is the young incels. So I'm sure all of you, or most of you, have seen adolescence. It freaked out a lot of parents of young teenagers, but young incels around the world are feeling that girl power is surging ahead, and research shows that young females, compared to young males, are in educational achievement, mental health, and transitions into adulthood are outstripping the male pace of that. So young teenage males are feeling disempowered, not that females weren't, and they are resorting to virtual companions. So your digital companion is, you are getting more emotionally involved in an avatar or a digital companion than you do in real life. I had a discussion with Moxie just before we came here about people looking at, and I write columns, and I just wrote about how AI has now moved into the dating element, and when people use ChatGPT to flirt, and then they finally meet you in real life, you say, this is not the person I met because your text was so rich, and suddenly I'm faced with somebody that's a bit of a dud. So, if young people are leaning onto digital companions, then spiritually, are we doing the same thing?
In the heart of Lucerne, Switzerland, technology and faith are intersecting in a new way. Visitors to St. Peter's Chapel can now interact with an AI Jesus, thanks to an innovative art installation created at a local university. The project has captured global attention, sparking both intrigue and critique. But what exactly is this, and why did the church decide to bring a virtual Jesus to life?
What we're doing here is an experiment. We wanted to launch the discussion by letting people have a very concrete experience with AI. That way, we have a foundation for talking about it and discussing it with one another.
Marco Schmid is a theologian at St. Peter's Chapel, and he gave his blessing for this project. The installation, which cost several thousand euros, launched in August of 2024, aiming to offer spiritual support at any time of the day, unlike human pastors. The centerpiece of the project is a high-tech confessional booth where visitors are greeted by a digital avatar of Jesus. A user-friendly interface allows penitents to ask questions about faith, and the AI responds with answers based on its training from the New Testament and other religious information.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, like it or not, is the state we're in. Thank you so much for your time.